Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel, on our website, or our social media. It's in the description below. Reach out to me directly, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a 2020 model from Tag Heuer, already available pre-owned. This is one of the first I've seen, of the Tag Heuer Carrera caliber Heuer 02, 44 millimeters in stainless steel. There are several versions of this watch, most of which include a ceramic bezel. This one is steel on steel. 44 millimeters. The watch measures 15.4 millimeters thick, and in profile you can see the watch is 50 millimeters lug-to-lug, but if we add the solid end links of the bracelet, it's a more substantial 53 millimeters across the wrist. It wears almost exactly like a 44 millimeter Panerai Luminor. The spacing between the lugs is 22 millimeters. If you want to throw it on a strap, I'm going to throw it on my wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. You can see the cuff shot. Jackets are fine, but tight shirt sleeves might not be compatible. The down the barrel showing you the clearance on both sides of my wrist. Note that I'm tensioning it a little bit to simulate removal of links and sizing. And then of course you have the overhead shot that shows how much clearance I have on both sides. I would recommend it for a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference, though I would not necessarily go much smaller. It's a hefty watch, substantial, with hardware to match. The bracelet is a handsome piece. Many three-link designs seem derivative of the dominant Rolex Oyster, but because the shape of these center links has added a little bit of depth and additional faceting, this does not read as an Oyster clone. I like the depth down the center of the bracelet. I also like the faceting of the polished center bar of the intermediate links. If you look outboard, you can see the outer faces of the links are polished, and on the underside, there are gaps between the links to avoid trapping wrist heat, pinching skin, or pulling hair. You can see that pins and sleeves are used to hold the links in place, so if you want to size this at home, you're going to need a punch and a block, and then there are half links that allow you to more precisely fine-tune the size on the wrist. Single fold stainless steel machine swing arm, single deployant, twin trigger release, and you can see that it's relatively low profile when it's closed. The twin triggers assuring it cannot accidentally pop open. You must depress both of them. The case band is an evolved Carrera. You still have the integration of these thrusting sculpted angular lugs. That's been a constant on the Carrera line since 1963 and the Heuer days, but what you can see here is that there's also a little bit more nuance to this case shape. It has some tumble home or reverse tumble home from the mid case to the back. The case flank isn't so much straight as it's slightly curved, and you can see that complex curve with the reverse tumble home as well as the arcing from end to end. It does things with light that are more characteristic of finely finished Grand Seiko cases. So this is a nuanced Carrera. There's also a band of satin finish that runs from lug to lug with a little bit of a outcropping at the mid case to add another level of visual distinction and articulation, so it doesn't seem like a can when viewed in profile. And it doesn't seem stark or sheer at all, as it gives way to a bezel that's set further inboard, satin finished angular with a shallow plane as it rolls up to a band of high polish that allows you to read against the chronograph seconds hand. You can see the contrast between the polish and the satin, a feature you won't find on the ceramic bezel versions of this watch. The tachometer allows you to gauge the speed of an object over, for example, a mile or a kilometer using the chronograph. It is, of course, a very sporty scale. Now, the dial is surprisingly nuanced. The Carrera, including at its center, will work from the center out. It has a lovely concentric brushed almost forest green. It's a little bit lighter than British Racing Green, this green metallic. We have registers that actually flare up above the dial, and then you can see there are cantilevered individual applique indices for the hours. They are steel and rhodium plated, so they are absolutely bright white and silvery. There's a flange outboard, which you can see features both markings and a texture, and against that you can read the minutes as well as fractions of a second. Now there's constant seconds down at 6 o'clock, as well as a date window. I'll mention a few refinements here. The Heuer 02 caliber does feature hacking or stop seconds. It also features a quick set system, so you can rapidly cycle the date. If you're wondering, can I leave the chronograph running? You can, with no hazard, wear, or tear, as this is a vertical clutch, which means it starts very smoothly without any jump, and then it can be run on a continuous basis if you just want to have your seconds, minutes, and hours at center. The watch, of course, is powered by the Heuer Caliber 02, which started life as the caliber 1969 became the CH80, went on hiatus for a few years, and finally was born as the Caliber Heuer 02. Unlike the original 1887, this one is not Grand Seiko derived, though they do borrow some of the best elements from Grand Seiko's chronograph calibers. Automatic winding, 80-hour power reserve, 4 Hz beat rate, 33 joules, 100 meter water resistance, and you can just barely see up at the top of the frame the black coated column wheel. It is a column wheel chronograph, and it is very crisp. The feeling is as good as a Longadotograph or a Rolex Caliber 4130, and heck, I'm going to throw the Breitling B01 in there too, because these are all exemplary pusher feel column wheel chronographs. A timepiece that's handsome on both sides with an incomparable legacy as part of the Heuer and later Tag Heuer Carrera line. It's motorsports themed, though it's adequate for any sporting occasion and superlative for any wrist that is fit. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the Carrera by night